your timeline is not publicly available yet. Is that right?
Up through the search history. The phone records is not all the way done yet. So
Is there somewhere people can find that, or are you just kind of holding off until it's completely?
oh no, yeah, that's up on the group page. Yeah, I think just in the group page, I think.
You under files or just one of your posts?
Should be under files, I think. Okay. As it's a PDF, but
it is under files because I downloaded a couple versions of it.
Yeah. Okay. It's in this newer one. I actually started going through, and there's certain statements I actually had to delete because there's literally zero proof for it, and I've been digging on that hard just to make sure. So was this said, or is this just kind of thought? I can't prove any of these things, and so I went and looked through the files and all this, and there's nothing proven some of the things that were in there initially, so I had to delete those. I have a copy of it with said comments, but on I have the two different timelines set up that way, so you'll have the phones on both, but nice. with all the information from what Dan had thrown in there, not Dad, but Dan had thrown in there, but there's some of it I couldn't find anywhere to save my life. I really couldn't.
Okay.
So I had to delete it. It's a lot of it that I was finding that I couldn't find. It was
do you have if you have multiple of the same thing but like updated version, should we remove some of the earlier ones from the files?
You could if you want. That's absolutely
fine. If there's different data in there or relevant data in the older ones, I wouldn't want to, but I mean, obviously we want to make the files really easy for people.
No, I get you. No, yeah, you can the one that should be most recent, let me bring that up. I can tell you directly which one. It's gonna be the one that you guys would have everything, which would be journal and search history, I believe. Yeah, journal and search history is gonna be the most recent that you guys would have access to. The phone records I'm still working on because, well, God, that takes forever. So much there.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys, I think both have access to it too. So
you've been doing some great work on that too, and let people know where they can catch all of your streams, especially the one you may be doing this evening, even though people will have seen this before.
Well, the thing is, I'm actually going to go and break down tonight on the mold on what does this mean. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to probably get right back into the phone records right after, but because why not?
Yeah.
But you can actually find me on twitch.tv/strange investigations. Stream will be on at 10. I know I say 10, but sometimes it's like 10, 15, 10, 20 start time. But
and that's that's not California time, but
Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah, Pacific Standard Time.
But then just if I have like a day off or something like this, I'll usually I'll go and throw up another stream. Why not?
Yeah, I may be wrapping presents, but maybe I'll at least join in to the chat room with you guys.
All right, sounds good, man.
Can I ask a question? The paperwork that David was trying to get Danny August Mason to sign, that was dated when the paperwork was drawn up was August 1st. Do we know when David got that paperwork to Danny August Mason?
I don't think we have the exact date. No. I did kind of mention this on, like, I did a little video about kind of navigating through my website, William. I don't know if you've seen that one.
It looks much nicer.
We were talking about that I think it was either July 24th or July 26th, and there was something specific about that one. I do believe it's tied to Danny Mason and to David. It's tied to when David was trying to get him to sign.
What date were you saying? July what?
I think it was either. Go ahead, Sophia. I'm gonna look it up.
Because paperwork at the very bottom, it's dated August 1st.
Correct. I think that's when it's finalized, where they got the final paperwork done.
I think David wanted Danny August Mason to sign it by that date, was my interpretation.
Okay, because I mean, why would he invite Danny August Mason to a birthday party if it was a contentious point?
Right.
I just don't understand that.
Well, that's where
And
we have to go into the
they were
journals and
saying
stuff.
that it was tense and everything. If he
Yeah.
had,
Okay. So no, this is an interesting point because I actually brought this up with the phone records. So when it comes down to that party, okay, now we have to look at the journal, and this is why that timeline is so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Is we can actually start breaking things down. Now we've got with a gray state and all this, they're saying, I believe they said in a gray state it was a tense party and all that. But then we go to David's journal.
he
He talks
said
about it being a
it was good.
non-dramatic. Yeah, it was a good non-dramatic party. They throw a hell of a party. I don't remember the exact, it was like a non-dramatic, which I believe he misspelled, party. And he was proud of it. Thing is, these other guys are saying it was very tense and things like this. But then you also see in that, I believe in that same post where he literally slaps, metaphorically slaps Joseph Seaton in the face. He's like, yeah, he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Just big douchebag. And this is what, he didn't explain why, but he just basically said he is. But he'd been talking crap about Danny August Mason and Joseph Seaton for months at that point. Sean Wright was included in a few of those. The one thing we don't ever see in his journal, though, is Mason Hendricks. He never pops up. In the phone records, we go back earlier in the year. We don't see him actually pop up until March. So you can go all the way through January, February, and then March is when he pops up.
Yeah.
And it's curious because I'm looking over his newer phone records and I don't see him popping up.
No, you don't.
So
It's really odd.
It's just like Joseph Seaton. We only see like one phone call or two phone calls from him. There's not a whole lot of phone calls. I'm still going back over before, I'm looking back in April still to go and see, okay, so when did Joseph Seaton start contacting David? Because we know that when he got in town, we know that because David confirms that, and we can actually go back and we can actually start going back and looking at things like that. But when it comes down to what exactly happened to make the relationship sour, that we're probably never going to know. We're not going to know why David had a falling out completely with Joseph Seaton. We know that Joseph Seaton was kind of trying to take advantage of David through his drive and all this, and he talks about that, but we don't know everything that set David in that path to like try to go get rid of certain people in his life.
Yeah.
Just like Dan Jr. We don't know what happened between him.
He had talked about Danny August Mason and Joseph Seaton taking the whole Gray State franchise way too far.
Right.
And it was annoying him, and how Sean was, you could buy, for $50,000 a year,
he'd work.
I'll do everything for you, that kind of thing. And it was constant. And then you had, I think, Adam Schamberg also, who was like a little chihuahua. These are just
big monkey arms around.
Yeah, just descriptions and stuff, and you're like, wow, no wonder he was cutting the fat.
Right. That's all they were to him. They were just the fat in his life, and he didn't want it. And that's I think you're onto something there too with the whole terminology of the fat, because he talks about like, getting in a better shape and things like this. I think he could have been even talking socially, cutting the fat out of his life, as he talks about, moving out of that, basically just it's like a dead end place for him. He's trying to go and break this quote Crowley curse, end quote. He's trying to go and cut all this stuff from his life. Question is why? With everybody, what was everything that set everything in motion? Danny August Mason and Joseph Seaton's pretty obvious. We've made that apparent. Adam Shambor and Sean Wright, pretty apparent as well. Why Chris Peck? Why, why his family? Why Kamel's family? And all we get to know about the Kamel's family is, and his family is, they don't mesh. They don't see the world the same way he does or Kamel does. And him and Kamel are of like one mind. And we get to see this even, sort of through his journal where he talks about it, but it's like, they'll make this connection. They're like working in unison. All of a sudden she'll slip off, in his words. She kind of just slips off on her own. So there's a tension there. There's definitely some tension, but We don't know everything that happened. Like, do we know for a fact that David was jealous of Kamel? He would have mentioned that in his journal, flat out. He would have mentioned that.
Yeah.
There was no jealousy mentioned.
Absolutely agree.
We know that they had a good time at the reunion. He briefly talked about it. It was just a reunion. That's all it was. He didn't get to go and do it the way he
Remember,
wanted.
there was someone that commented that, I forget who it was, that said that that it was mentioned that the jealousy, I think it was Hendrix, maybe, that there was it
Sure, it wasn't
Hendrix?
Judy. I could have sworn it was Judy who said something along that.
I don't think I would have paid that much attention if it was her
No.
that said it. I think it was maybe either Cidra's friend, maybe during the interview that I did with Cidra's friend, maybe that came up where there was something in David's journal that had talked about, he felt, I think it was Mason Hendricks that told me. I could be wrong, but I do remember that coming up. And then that's why in the journal, you're right, like there's nothing in there. I don't see anything about jealousy or anything like that in his journal.
Right.
Now you also found, though, that there were some things, because we have two different copies of those journals,
Mhm.
and you found that there are some differences in those
There
two
are.
journals.
There's differences in the journals. I mean, some of these entries they've got some things that are redacted, which they weren't in the other ones. We know that. Then there's some, it almost seemed like there was some verbiage in there that differed. And we know there was definitely some things cut out from the journal. As to why, I don't know. Sophia would know a little more on the journal stuff than I would on that, but
Well, Tony had taken stuff out that discussed their sex life and stuff like that.
Well,
And I
that's
think
understandable.
put some verbiage out that David was discussing that was offensive or something like that. But I mean, he legit like redid the journal. I think he retyped it or something. I'm not exactly sure because his copy is a lot clearer than our copy.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm thinking probably happened as well.
Murder at 1051 Ramsdale Drive. What happened to David Crowley, his wife, and his daughter? If this was truly a double murder-suicide, why did investigators fail to prove David Crowley guilty? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed his wife and daughter? Where is the evidence David Crowley killed himself? Within 24 hours of finding the bodies of David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley, the Apple Valley Police Department were treating the incident as a double murder-suicide. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Allahu Akbar in his wife's blood on the living room wall. Authorities cannot prove David wrote I have loved you all with all of my heart on a laptop in the kitchen. Authorities cannot prove David wrote Open the Rise most recent version, submit to Allah now on a notepad in his office bedroom. Authorities cannot prove the dog trapped inside the house ate David's right hand, both of Kamel's hands, and their daughter's right arm, since dog feces tests were never done. Authorities did not know about a bullet that rolled out of a living room carpet until they were notified by the cleaning company, 2 days after the bodies were found. That bullet would later be tied to Rania Crowley. Authorities did not see the bullet hole in the living room ceiling or the bullet in the attic above until they questioned David's friend a month after the bodies were found. Authorities did not find a motive to support their accusations against David Crowley. Authorities did not find David's blood on any of the bullets at the crime scene. Authorities do not know when David, Kamel, and Rania Crowley died. What we know for sure is that David Crowley has not been proven guilty.